A trade that happened in the NBA a little less than 24 hours ago involving the Memphis Grizzlies and Los Angeles Clippers was a pretty big storyline out of the NBA circles. I'm going to explain to you why I do believe it's a pretty decent trade for the Memphis Grizzlies, not as much for the Los Angeles Clippers. So let's start positive here. Let's explain why this was a good move for my hometown, Memphis. So I don't know this to be true. My guess is Eric Bledsoe didn't want to play basketball with the Memphis Grizzlies. That's my guess. You know, Eric Bledsoe's been on those Bucks teams. Then he ended up in New Orleans last year. Remember, Bledsoe came over right before the draft in that Jonas Valanciunas trade in which a lot of that Memphis Grizzlies fan base did not like that Jonas Valanciunas trade. He was one of their favorites that brought in Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. I'm assuming Eric Bledsoe didn't want to be in Memphis. I don't know that to be true. So you had a guy that probably was going to be unhappy being a backup to Ja Morant in Memphis. Probably not a guy that's Ja's going to look to for mentorship. I don't know that, but I'm just assuming that, especially if he's unhappy. So Memphis was like, okay, let's flip this contract and see if we can at least give ourselves a little bit of financial freedom here. Maybe not this year, but the year after that. That's why the Clippers and Grizzlies agreed to a trade that will send Rajon Rondo, Patrick Beverley, and Daniel Oturu to Memphis in exchange for Eric Bledsoe. All right, so let's just put it together like this. Eric Bledsoe has 2 years left on his deal. The second year of his deal is not fully guaranteed. I believe about $4 million of that is guaranteed. But for Memphis, it's like, yo, if we can save ourselves $3.9 million, let's do it. So them trading Bledsoe gives them a little bit of financial freedom in 2022, which will be a big year for Memphis because they got to make a decision on do they want to give Jaren Jackson that max extension, which if Jaren plays for Memphis this year, if he's not banged up and he plays most of the season, he'll have every right to that extension. Now, would I pay Jaren Jackson that type of money? No, he gives me Tristan Thompson vibes, but that's me. For Eric Bledsoe, though, trading him to the Clippers, they take on that second year of that deal. Rondo and Beverley, the two big contracts in that Clippers-Grizzlies deal, they're both done after this year. So for Memphis, they get off the books after this year, and if they want to give Jaren Jackson that max extension, they give themselves about $4 or $5 million more to play with. That's pretty much what the gist of that trade was about for Memphis. You trade an unhappy guy, and you get a little bit of financial freedom. And I do think Patrick Beverley, I do think he will be a good. I know Memphis very well. Like, Pat Bev will fit the culture. Like, I think that's actually going to be a really good move for Memphis, a team that has underwhelmed me this offseason. I've been underwhelmed with the Grizzlies and the moves that they made, more importantly, the moves that they have not made. But I do like bringing Pat Bev into Memphis. My assumption is Rajon Rondo probably is going to get bought out. I doubt he plays a dribble in Memphis. I would like to see it. I doubt it happens, though. I would assume he either gets traded or bought out. That's my guess. Don't take my word on it, though, but that's my guess. Now, let's move over to the Clippers. Now, if you're a Clippers fan, you're not going to like the remainder of this video. It's not good for your franchise at all. Because there are a multitude of reasons why Pat Bev and Rajon Rondo could have been moved from the Clippers, and pretty much none of them are good. Let's start here. Patrick Beverley, right? Pat Bev's season ended as Chris Paul lit the Clippers up, his former team, and Pat Bev, as Chris Paul's heading to the bench, he pushes CP3 in the back. Awful look for the franchise. Keep in mind, Jerry West is in that franchise. Keep in mind, Lawrence Frank's in that franchise. Obviously their owner and Steve Ballmer, he's trying to erase that losing culture. And to me, that was a loser move. It further emphasized that notion that the Clippers are the basement team to the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think that could have been part of it. Rajon Rondo got into it with Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. Rondo also fell out of that rotation for the Clippers in the playoffs. Obviously, another not so good thing. It could have been this, right? What if Steve Ballmer knows that Kawhi Leonard is out for the season? And he's like, yo, I'm going to save me a little bit of dollar in the present by trading away 2 contracts for 1. Or, Daniel Oturu make it 3, but pretty much 2 contracts for 1. It could have been that. What if he knows, like, this ain't a team that's going to compete, so I'm just trying to position ourselves to be bad. We're not going to overexert Paul George this season if we know that Kawhi Leonard is done for the year. Also there's the element of what if they just didn't work out? Rondo and Pat Bev didn't work out in that locker room. What if Paul George and Kawhi signed off on a trade. You would think that those two gentlemen would have signed off on a trade, but you kind of never know with Kawhi and PG. So I don't know that to be true, but what if it's not? That's, to me, not another good sign, because I don't believe a team can win a championship if Kawhi and Paul George are asked to be the vocal leaders of your locker room as well. We know these dudes on the court are excellent. Both of them, first ballot Hall of Famers. Be clear about that. But on the court, like the leadership component of it, like I don't want them two dudes to lead me. You think a guy like Rondo would be more of a vocal leader. You think Pat Bev would be more of a vocal leader. The Clippers just got rid of two of those type of guys. What is that about? We knew there were leaks coming out of that Clippers team dating back to 2 years ago when people were rubbed the wrong way about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard not being at practice, private jetting in, being late and all that great stuff. And it looks like the Clippers have pretty much cleaned house. I mean, look at their last calendar year. They've gotten rid of Montrezl Harrell. They've gotten rid of Lou Williams. So both of their 6 men off the bench are gone. Right? They've gotten rid of now Pat Bev and even bringing in Rondo and letting him go after a few months. They have cleaned house, pretty much not named Marcus Morris on anything from that old regime. And now we're completely in the Kawhi and PG era. But from a basketball standpoint, I cannot make sense out of this move making sense on the court for the Clippers. No disrespect to Eric Bledsoe. Not only do I not believe he's the overall talent of a Rondo and Pat Bev combined. I get it. Like, if we're looking on paper, if this is NBA 2K, Eric Bledsoe, he jumps off the screen, right? He's still in his prime. But if you watch him on the court, I mean, the Bucks got rid of Eric Bledsoe when they won an NBA championship. He was part of the problem in Milwaukee. They moved on from him, brought in Drew Holiday, and literally Drew was better than Eric Bledsoe at everything. Even the things that you thought Bledsoe would be better than Drew at, Holiday literally was better than him at every aspect of the game of basketball for the Bucks. A lot of people don't talk about that move, but that was a big piece to the Bucks changing that culture. Eric Bledsoe didn't go to New Orleans, and he didn't go down there and make a difference either for the Pelicans either. The Pelicans got rid of him the first chance they can get. He seems to be a guy that you bring in and just ain't been that, like, he has not been what you think he would have been coming out of Kentucky. He has not been that. The best move that dude ever made was signing that extension in March with the Milwaukee Bucks a few years ago. That was the best move he could have ever made, because I don't think he's going to get a payday like that ever again in the NBA. He doesn't scream the traits that I want in a point guard, a backup point guard. He don't have them, and he definitely don't got him as a starting point guard. I don't see how the Clippers can justify this move as a team that's looking to still go for a championship this year. Now, there's still time. They'll be still in L.A. Obviously, there's going to be a great buyout market for them. If Kawhi comes back, Paul George is there, people are going to want to play for the Clippers in that buyout market in February, March, around the postseason time. So, I mean, there's still that. But just talking about on the court this year, nah. The moves that Steve Ballmer makes tells me that something ain't right in Los Angeles. And if I'm a Clippers fan, I am not happy today. So shout out Marcellus Wiley and all you other Clipper fans out there. Not a good day for the Clippers as they essentially give away Pat Bev and Rajon Rondo.